ready to ditch the roadmap and maybe explore some alternative routes.
That was fun.
Today, we're diving into this whole idea of the default path,
Right.
that familiar track of school, career, house, family,
Yep.
and why it might not be like the one-size-fits-all answer to a fulfilling life anymore.
Yeah.
We'll be pulling insights from The Pathless Path, a book that really challenges these conventional expectations.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this default path,
Right.
while it's so deeply ingrained in our society, it's actually like a relatively recent concept.
Huh.
It really gained traction during the post-World War II economic boom, when
Okay.
you had high GDP growth and jobs were readily available.
Yeah.
It made that linear progression seem like the natural order of things.
Right. It's like the societal recipe for success got written during a very specific era,
Yeah.
but things have changed drastically since then.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the economy isn't as predictable,
Right.
technology is constantly disrupting industries,
Mm.
and, people's values are shifting.
Yeah. So what happens when that old recipe no longer yields the results we expect?
Well, the book highlights this growing discontent with this default path, even among those who achieve all the milestones.
Well, interesting.
Many people feel unfulfilled or anxious despite their outward success.
Yeah.
They're starting to question if this one-size-fits-all approach to life is truly serving them.
And the author, he had a front row seat to this whole default path dilemma. He was like a classic high achiever,
Mhm.
top grades, prestigious jobs.
Yeah.
And yet he found himself feeling deeply disillusioned even while working with CEOs at a top consulting firm and making a ton of money.
Wow, yeah.
Isn't it interesting how sometimes,
Yeah.
even when we're achieving what we thought we wanted,
Right.
there's still this nagging sense of something missing?
Absolutely. And the author's experience with Lyme disease was kind of a turning point.
Oh, wow.
This health crisis forced him to confront the fragility of an identity solely tied to work and to reevaluate his priorities.
Psychologists actually call this post-traumatic growth, where facing adversity can lead to a profound shift in perspective.
Interesting.
He realized that his worth wasn't defined by his job title or paycheck.
So instead of staying on autopilot, he began questioning everything.
He did.
He was still drawn to achievement,
Okay.
but he also started exploring alternative work models. He became fascinated by the independent consultants he met,
Yeah.
noticing their flexibility and freedom, things he craved but couldn't quite grasp in his corporate world.
Right?
So instead of just jumping ship, he started making small changes, like creating a daily reminder of his priorities.
Okay.
Health, relationships, creativity, placing them ahead of career.
That's a fantastic example of what the author refers to as prototyping.
Okay.
Think of it like testing the waters before diving into a whole new pool.
Right.
He was experimenting with new ways of thinking and working before making any drastic changes.
Makes sense.
He even started a side gig as a career coach.
He also realized how much we idolize meaningful work and feel this pressure to monetize every passion.
Oh.
Everyone's always chasing that elusive dream job, right? But what if we shifted our focus from finding that perfect pre-existing role
Yeah.
to designing work that we genuinely enjoy,
Right.
regardless of whether it fits some grand narrative of purpose?
This raises an important question for all of us.
Okay.
What if the meaning in work comes from how we engage with it, rather than the work itself?
Yeah.
Could the pursuit of meaningful work actually distract us from simply creating work that we want to do?
Eventually, all that questioning led him to a big decision.
Oh, yeah.
He left his high-paying consulting job.
Oh.
He even turned down another lucrative offer, realizing he was clinging to a certain perception of his worth.
Ah,
It was like he was finally breaking free from those golden handcuffs.
great.
What's striking is that he rejected a path seemingly perfect for his skills and ambitions.
This speaks volumes about his shifting values. Money and status were no longer his primary drivers.
Interesting.
He was searching for deeper fulfillment, a life that felt more authentic.
Okay.
He even talks about this concept of total work,
Okay.
where work dominates our lives and identities.
Mhm.
It makes you wonder how much of our self-worth is tied to what we do for a living.
It's like our jobs become our entire identity.
Exactly.
Then he did something pretty radical.
Oh, really?
He designed a non-work sabbatical for himself,
Wow.
stepping away from the pressure of being a worker
Okay.
and embracing leisure and creative pursuits.
Ah.
This wasn't just about taking a break.
Right.
It was about challenging those deeply ingrained ideas about work itself.
What's interesting is that this period of non-work wasn't passive relaxation.
Okay.
It was an active exploration of alternatives, a way to step off the default path and see what other possibilities existed.
He realized that work didn't have to be something to minimize or escape.
Yeah?
It could be something he actively designed and engaged with on his own terms.
And-
This shifting perspective, moving from fear and scarcity to possibility and abundance, seems to be a common thread among people who successfully transition to alternative paths. But I'm curious, were there challenges along the way?
Absolutely. Leaving the familiar structure of the default path can feel unsettling,
Yeah.
even isolating at times.
Right.
He talks about the difficulty of explaining this unconventional journey to family and friends,
Right.
the potential for judgment and misunderstanding.
It's like trying to explain a different reality to people who are firmly rooted in the default one.
Exactly.
Did he have any strategies for navigating those conversations?
He introduces this concept of an aspirational journey.
Okay.
It acknowledges that the path unfolds through exploration and experimentation,
Right.
that our values and goals evolve along the way.
That makes sense.
You have to trust yourself, trust the process, and be prepared for those values and goals to shift over time.
It's not about having all the answers up front. It's about being open to the journey and trusting that the right opportunities will emerge.
Exactly.
Did he have any advice for finding support along the way?
He emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with supportive communities and path experts,
Okay.
people who understand and encourage alternative journeys.
Got it.
Think of it as building your own personal board of advisors,
Right.
folks who get it, who've maybe walked a similar path
Yeah.
and can offer guidance when things get tough.
So he was prototyping, exploring, and finding his tribe.
He was.
But how did he make the leap from the corporate world to actually making a living on his own terms?
He started with freelancing,
Okay.
which offered financial stability.
Right.
It also revealed a lingering attachment to the worker identity.
Interesting.
Even though he had control over his schedule,
Yeah.
he felt guilty when he wasn't working during typical work hours.
That's so relatable.
Right.
It's like that worker mentality is so ingrained in us that it's hard to shake off even when we have the freedom to do things differently.
It is.
I know I still struggle with that sometimes.
It highlights how pervasive the total work mentality can be.
Yeah.
It seeps into our subconscious and affects our behavior even when we're no longer bound by traditional work structures.
So how do we break free from that? How
Yeah.
do we redefine success on our own terms?
He talks about embracing a second chapter of success, shifting the focus from external validation to internal fulfillment.
Okay.
It's about challenging those traditional metrics like income and status and embracing alternative measures of well-being and personal growth.
It's like rewriting the definition of success, moving away from that external, keeping up with the Joneses mentality
Right, yeah.
to something that feels more authentic and personally fulfilling.
Exactly.
But how do you make that shift in a world that's still very much driven by those old metrics?
He offers a lot of practical advice.
Okay.
One key concept is working backward,
Okay.
which sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but is actually quite brilliant.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What exactly does working backward entail?
Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, you start by identifying what you want to avoid.
Okay.
Think of it like planning a trip.
Okay.
You don't just randomly book flights and hope for the best.
Right.
You start with your destination and then work backward to figure out the steps needed to get there.
So you're essentially creating a roadmap based on what you don't want to experience.
Yeah.
It's like a pre-mortem for your life.
Exactly.
Identify potential pitfalls and then create strategies to mitigate those risks.
Exactly. It's about creating a safety net for yourself, both financially and emotionally.
Yeah.
So you feel more confident about taking risks and exploring unconventional paths.
Makes sense.
He also talks about the importance of diversification, not just in terms of income streams, but also in terms of skills, experiences, and relationships.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like building a resilient portfolio for your life, one that can weather unexpected changes and challenges.
He provides a great example of this in his own life.
Okay.
He went from relying solely on freelance work to generating income from multiple sources, online courses, writing coaching, even speaking engagements.
Wow.
He created a web of support that's less vulnerable to a single point of failure.
Right.
This strategy is particularly relevant in today's world, where traditional career paths are becoming less stable.
That's a really empowering message.
Yeah.
It's about taking control and designing a life that supports your well-being on multiple levels.
He also stresses the importance of prioritizing long-term engagement and personal satisfaction over immediate financial gain.
Right.
He talks about coming alive over getting ahead.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder that we don't have to sacrifice our well-being for short-term success. Did
Yeah.
he offer any specific examples of how to put this into practice?
He shares a story about his online course.
Okay.
It started generating significant income during the pandemic.
Wow.
His initial instinct was to scale it up,
Yeah.
maximize those profits.
Okay.
But he realized doing so would require sacrificing time and energy. He wanted to devote to writing his book.
Right.
So he made the conscious decision to prioritize what brought him alive, writing over chasing further financial success.
It's a powerful example of him living his principles.
It is.
He chose fulfillment over chasing the next dollar.
Yeah.
But was it all smooth sailing from there?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There were moments of doubt, financial challenges, and that constant internal battle against the total work mentality.
Right.
But he also discovered a newfound sense of freedom and purpose.
It sounds like the journey itself was a process of learning and growth.
It was.
What other insights did he gain along the way?
He talks about the importance of creating your own culture.
Yeah.
It's about defining the assumptions that guide your decisions and actions and consciously shaping those assumptions to create a life that aligns with your values. It's like building your own personal operating system.
So instead of just accepting the default settings, you're customizing them to create an environment that supports your unique goals and aspirations. I love that analogy. What are some of the principles he used to build his culture?
He emphasizes prioritizing experiences over possessions,
Okay.
embracing vulnerability and authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
cultivating a mindset of abundance, and focusing on building meaningful relationships. It's not about following a rigid set of rules, but rather creating a framework that guides you towards a more fulfilling life.
It sounds like it's about shifting your focus from what you have to what you experience and who you share those experiences with. It's a powerful reminder that true wealth lies in connection and personal growth, not just material possessions.
Absolutely.
He also talks about finding work you want, to keep doing work that aligns with your interests and passions instead of searching for a dream job. Focus on designing work that you actively enjoy, work that challenges you and allows you to grow. It's about taking ownership of your career and crafting a path that sustains you over the long term. This resonates with me so much. I think many of us get caught up in chasing that elusive dream job without really considering what truly motivates us and brings us joy. Did he share any examples of people who have successfully made this shift?
He tells the story of John O'Nolan,
Okay.
who left his job to build a blogging platform called Ghost.
Okay.
O'Nolan structured the company in a way that would allow him to stay involved for the long haul.
Oh, wow.
He even gave up ownership in the ability to sell the company,
Really?
prioritizing long-term engagement and personal satisfaction over potential financial windfalls.
That's incredibly inspiring. He chose passion and sustainability over a quick exit. It really challenges those traditional notions of success and ambition.
And that's what's so exciting about this concept of the pathless path.
Right.
It encourages us to question assumptions, break free from those limiting beliefs, and create lives that are both meaningful and fulfilling. He even challenges us to ask ourselves this profound question.
Okay.
If work dominated every moment of your life, would life be worth living?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It really forces you to examine your priorities and what truly matters to you.
He wants us to consider the cost of total work.
All right.
Is it worth sacrificing our well-being, relationships, and personal passions for the sake of achievement and productivity? He suggests shifting our focus from simply working to coming alive.
I think this deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. We've explored the limitations of the default path, the potential of the pathless path, and the strategies for navigating that transition. But as you said, the real journey starts now.
It does. He leaves us with a challenge to explore, experiment, and discover our own unique paths. It's about embracing uncertainty, trusting our intuition, and taking those leaps of faith even when they feel scary.
It's about realizing that there's no one-size-fits-all answer, no guaranteed formula for success. It's about creating a life that aligns with our values and leads us towards a future that we're genuinely excited to embrace.
And remember, the path may be pathless, but that doesn't mean you're alone.
Right.
Seek out supportive communities, connect with those path experts, and trust the journey. You might be amazed at where it leads you.
So to our listener, we leave you with this invitation. What does your pathless path look like? What steps can you take today to move closer to that vision? What assumptions can you challenge? What brings you alive? Embrace the journey and see where it takes you. You might just surprise yourself.